Hey everyone, me again. If you're new around here, my name's Alice and I make videos all about affordable beauty and fashion. So as I'm sure you can see from the title, today I've picked up a couple of things from the new Mauve collection from Colourpop. I picked up their eyeshadow palette and some Super Shock shadows. I do really want to focus on the palette in this video, but I'll still swatch these while we're here. I know that Colourpop are closed at the moment, which makes complete sense given everything that's going on. However, I still really wanted to make this video because this collection just really spoke to me. It was something I was really excited about. So yeah, let's just dive in. So this is what the palette looks like. There's no mirror in here, but the design is still nice and the shades look absolutely beautiful. Very cool toned. I did also pick up the Super Shock shadows as well. So there's two shades. There's the lighter shade called Day Trippin' and then the darker one called Bloomer. And I've had Super Shock shadows from Colourpop before, so I'm expecting these to be really good. But before I throw these on my eyes, let's do some swatches. For the most part, I think the palette swatched quite well. There were a couple of shades that maybe didn't. So the first shade here, R&R, this one just felt like it wasn't really showing up, it wasn't building up, but I was thinking of putting this one on my eyes, so we'll see how it performs then. Also, I felt like the shade here was a bit patchy as well. Apart from that, I think we're off to a good start. And of course, the Super Shock shadows felt absolutely beautiful, very wet to the touch, very shimmery as always. I really do like the look of these. I might add a little bit of this one, Bloomer, the lighter shade, to the look. I might use this in the inner corner or something. We'll see. So I'm going to put on some eye primer before we get started. I'm using this one from NYX. This is actually my first time using this primer, but I thought I'd get a dedicated eye primer just because I've been watching a lot of Robert Welsh recently. I feel like this primer is actually a lot more sheer than I was expecting it to be. Maybe that's because I'm used to putting like concealer on my eyelids. So I think I'm just going to go over the top of it with the tiniest bit of my P. Louise base. This is in the shade Rumour 0.5. I don't use this a lot because it's almost white. It's very pale, but I think that will actually look really good with the shades in this palette. Yep, this is definitely more pigmented. I can tell straight away. Okay, I think that looks a lot more even now and my eyelids feel a lot more matte than they normally do when I use a concealer or a bit of leftover foundation. So I've got a good feeling about this. I'm just going to start out with the shade R&R and just use this as a bit of a starting point. So I'm going to build up the crease with this and just see where it goes from there. Okay, so even though my eyelids are practically white, this still isn't doing the best job of showing up. Okay, so after building it up a little bit, I can just about see it. It is actually a really nice colour. I don't know if you can even tell that it's there. This is before and this is after. I do like it. It's a nice everyday shade. I think you could probably wear this on its own and it would look really nice for an everyday look if you didn't want to wear a lot of eyeshadow and you just wanted to define the crease a bit. I think for the other eye, I'm just going to try packing it on with a bigger brush first and then blending it out from there. Okay, so the colour is showing up a lot quicker with the denser brush, so maybe that's the trick. So you've got to be a little bit patient with this one, and I think having the white eye primer is really helping, but you can probably see how much I'm like going back and forth into the palette to just pick up the colour on my brush. I'm ginger, I'm obviously very pale, so I don't really know how some of the shades in here would work on someone with a deeper skin tone. I feel like they probably wouldn't be able to use the top row at all. But for my complexion, I think this selection of colours is very pretty. And then I just want to add a bit more to these beautiful lavender tones that I've got going on with the shade Making Mauves. That's really nice. Again, this one is going to take a bit of building up, but I really do like the colour. I think the interesting thing about this palette is that at first glance it does look quite neutral, and there are shades in here that are very neutral, like I think that one is quite everyday. But the mattes that I'm using at the moment are a little bit more playful, they're a little bit more colourful. It's just such a nice colour selection for spring especially. I think I'm also going to take this shade on a more dense packing brush and just put this on the lower lash line as well. I think if you have blue eyes, you are absolutely going to love this palette. I feel like it's just really making my eyes pop. My eyes are mostly blue with a little bit of green, and I feel like this is a really flattering palette to go for. So next I'm just taking the shade Big Fig. I'm still using a fluffy eyeshadow brush at this point. I just want the look to be quite playful. I don't want it to be too structured. I'm just taking that shade. I'm going to start off quite lightly because I feel like, yeah, so this is a teeny bit more like pigmented than the others, so I'm just going to start up very carefully just to emphasize the crease. I'm also going on the outer part of the lid as well. I'm leaving most of the lid bare at the moment. I don't really know what I want to do with that yet. So I'm going to start putting something on the lid now, and I think I'm going to start out with the shade Tongue Tied and put this on the outer third of my lid. Okay, maybe half of my lid. This shade is again a bit more pigmented than the other matte shades, so maybe be a bit more careful than me when you apply this. Just like the shade R&R, I think this one would be really nice to just wear on its own. And I wasn't sure how it would blend with the more lavender tones, but it kind of works. I have gone a little bit too far into the inner corner of my eyes though, so I'm just going to take a little bit more of my P. Louise base before I put my shimmer shade on the lid and do a cut crease, which I almost never do. And then next I want to take the shade Mauve on top, just on my finger. This was my favourite shade when I was swatching the palette, and I'm just going to use my finger. Oh wow. Oh my goodness, that is so pretty. Oh wow, I absolutely love this shade. That is so beautiful. It's so sparkly. It's so metallic. And even though it looks pretty basic, it's actually a really unique shade to me anyway, because it's like, it's neutral, but it's got a bit of pink to it, and it's got a little bit of brown to it, but it's still really cool tone and a bit mauve as well. Somehow, oh, I love this. I'm just gonna chuck some on the other eye as well. There's no glitter glue or anything like that on my eyelids, and there's no fallout at all, even though there's definitely a bit of sparkle in there. Wow, I love this shade. So this is just my first impressions, but I think it's safe to say I'm really happy with this palette. This is definitely my kind of colour story. I really like how this look has turned out. My one minor critique is that it could really do with like an inner corner highlight shade, like a really bright lilac with a lot of shimmer to it. That would look so beautiful in here, but it's not entirely essential. I do have other shades like that among my vast collection. So just to finish everything off, I am going to add a little bit of the Super Shock shadow in Day Trippin', and I'm just going to put this in the inner corners. I do always find these particular shadows a little bit difficult to use just with a brush instead of just chucking it on with your fingers, but I'm making it work. It maybe isn't the best inner corner shade. There's actually a little bit of a cast to this, but I still like how the look turned out. Anyway, I'm going to jump off camera and finish off my makeup, add some mascara, and I'll be right back. So this is the finished look. I really hope you guys like it. I'm actually really happy with how everything turned out. So I've got a really small amount of eyeliner on just to frame my eyes. This is the Maybelline Hyper Easy eyeliner. I've also got a bit of this Focallure stick eyeshadow just in my waterline. Then there's the same two mascaras I use every single time. I put a bit of my foundation sponge over my lips just to lighten them up, and then I used this lip liner from AliExpress, which I'll link in the description box, and I also used a little bit of the NYX creamy round lipstick in the shade Talia, and that's pretty much it. So overall, I'm really happy with this eyeshadow palette and how this look has turned out. I hope you appreciate how this look matches my shirt, because that wasn't an accident. I did plan that. I'm really happy with this palette. I think that I'm going to get a lot of use out of it, and I think the colours look really nice on my colouring. But that is the one thing that I do just want to point out in this review. This looks good on me because I'm super pale. I don't know how this is going to look on anyone with a deeper skin tone, or even anyone with a medium skin tone. I think if you have a fair to light complexion, you're really going to love this, you're really going to get on with it. But anything deeper than a medium, I'm not quite sure if this is going to look good. Even on me, on my pale skin and with an almost white eye primer, I found that some of the shades were very pale and really had to be built up to actually show up on my lid. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I really like it because I'm super pale. I find a lot of eyeshadows can look really dramatic on me without me wanting that, if you see what I mean. So I really appreciate having some pale shades to play with, and I can only tell you my personal experience. But yeah, I'm just not sure how this will work if you have a complexion that's different to me. But for me, I really love this palette, and I know that I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. I really love the colour story, I love the formula, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. The Super Shock shadows, I know I only used this one in the inner corner, but from Swatches they feel exactly the same as my other Super Shock eyeshadows, so there's really no surprises here. And I think that's everything from me today. I hope you found this video helpful if you were thinking of picking up this palette. Obviously you can't get it at this moment in time, but this is all going to blow over eventually, and when it does, maybe pick up the palette then. But even if you can't get this palette for a while, I hope you still enjoyed watching this video anyway and enjoyed watching me playing with some makeup. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here. I'm doing my best to keep uploading twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays like I normally do. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.